free market. But we need to understand that what we have in this country is not a free market. We have crony capitalism. And when we look at these free trade agreements, these are not free trade agreements. Ron Paul said a long time ago, if you want to have a free trade agreement, when they were talking about NAFTA, you don't need a 1,000-page trade treaty. You just have free trade. You get rid of regulation. You don't add more regulation. So when you get a 1,000-page trade treaty, which is being negotiated in secret, which is going to be dumped on the Congress with no time for them to consider what is going on, and it's going to not allow them to make any amendments. It's going to be a straight up and down vote. They're going to be pressured to do it right away. They're going to be pressured by corporate lobbyists who wrote this. When you look at that sort of situation, you understand this is not free trade. This is not free trade. This is crony capitalism. This is managed trade. This is trade to benefit the large corporations. And we need to understand that this is about sovereignty. This is not just an economic issue. This treaty, unlike NAFTA, is very explicit that it goes after things that affect our digital rights with copyright. This is a way to put CISPA in the back door. This is a way to stop countries from controlling GMO if they're concerned about that, or stopping Monsanto from putting glyphosate, Roundup, into their country if they're concerned, as they should be, based on the research from The Lancet, from the World Health Organization, saying that they believe that glyphosate, that Roundup, is a cause of cancer. If people were to ban that, then Monsanto would be able to go in and sue that government in a special court. It's not even a real court. It's a court that is set up where the corporations are on parity with the country. And it's a process of arbitration. We've already seen this happening with NAFTA quietly. You don't hear about it because it's not in a public court and because the media is completely owned by these corporations that are suing. And they have gotten massive judgments from these arbitration processes. Take a look at what's going on in Greece today. This is a story that's on the Drudge Report. Greece orders a raid on government coffers as their cash is dwindling. The Greek government has ordered a mandatory transfer of cash reserves from state-owned enterprises to its central bank. Where else? In a desperate bid to gather enough cash to remain solvent. They say this cash crisis in Athens is degenerating with every passing day. And they point out that this decree, which would violate fiduciary obligations, well, what would that be? That would be maybe the fiduciary obligations that they have made to their citizens. Don't worry, because they're going to do the same thing that Venezuela did. It was Bloomberg, as I mentioned in the last segment, Bloomberg that bragged about the fact that Venezuela was a great investment for bankers. It was a 700% return on investment. That's great. How could that happen when the people didn't have enough money, Bloomberg said, that they couldn't get water, they couldn't get food, they couldn't get medicine without going to neighboring countries? But they recognize that their sovereign debts to the bank take precedent over what happens to their people. And we see the same thing now happening in Greece. And look at what the bank is doing to them. The Greek government is having to pay 28% interest on their loans to these banks. 28% interest. Credit card rates. Hey, I remember when credit card rates were prohibited by law from being more than 10%. That was before the runaway inflation of the Carter era, and then they got rid of the usury laws. And now we've got banks that operate openly as if they were loan sharks. That was what we used to call it when you charge people more than 10%. When you charge people the kind of interest rates that they regularly charge people on credit cards today, that was called loan sharking. That was something that only the mafia did. Now, all of the banks do that, and they're doing it to countries. Now, how did they respond to this? What's the response to this? Well, a lot of people have said that Greece is going to leave. Alan Greenspan, former Federal Reserve Chairman, said Greece is going to leave. We also had the head of PIMCO, the world's largest bond fund, say that Greece is going to leave the EU. They both said unless, here's the qualifier, unless we make EU something that it isn't right now, unless the member states give up sovereignty and become, as PIMCO's executive said, the United States of Europe. You see how these trade agreements, these economic agreements, metamorphosize into sovereignty agreements. The banks have a wonderful way of doing that, don't they? And that's exactly what's going to be happening with the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Stay with us. Right after the break, we're going to have some clips of what some of the senators said about this last week. It's very enlightening. We'll be right back.
Hear that? That's the sound of a house being trashed while a gang of thieves ransack the place. And what they don't steal will be destroyed.
You can prevent being the next victim of a break-in. Go to faketv.com and discover a device that creates the illusion someone inside is watching TV, even when you're miles away. Security is a mindset, and Fake TV should be part of your security solution. Be vigilant, but not fearful. faketv.com.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson. Have you ever wondered why banks, stockbrokers, investment advisors won't talk about gold IRAs? They've been available since 1986, yet the financial industry won't recognize the value of gold for your retirement. Gold has outperformed paper investments, yet no word about IRAs. If you would like to have gold for your retirement, call 800-686-2237. Don't get left behind by rising inflation and low returns. Call 800-686-2237. Secure your future and call 1-800-686-2237.
Hi, I'm Alex Jones. When I got on air 20 years ago, I weighed 180 pounds. I lifted weights 5 days a week. I could swim 2-3 miles. Then I discovered the New World Order, the globalists, their agenda. I started an Access television show. I was so dedicated to my work and hanging around with radio guys that I began drinking. I began smoking cigars and then even cigarettes. I transformed from looking like a white Bruce Lee to looking like a Jabba the Hutt. So I began a journey 5 years ago to shed the almost 100 pounds. I started taking Super Male Vitality and saw dramatic results in just a few weeks. When I added to the mix the key products developed by Dr. Group for InfoWarsLife.com, the results were incredible. Take the InfoWarsLife.com challenge today at InfoWarsLife.com or give our crew a call. They can answer all your questions or tell you about any of the specials at 888-253-3139.
It's very easy to be a criminal. All you need to burglarize a home is one simple household tool, a pair of scissors. If your home security system can be compromised by a criminal using scissors, then you're making it easy for them. Almost every home security system, even those sold by big-name companies, has a weakness: the phone line. You shell out $1,500, get locked into a long-term contract, and think you're safe. But a burglar can destroy your alarm in seconds with one snip. And when a burglar cuts your phone line, you're defenseless. Simply Safe Home Security is the smarter choice. Built by Harvard engineers, Simply Safe uses a wireless connection to call the cops. Scissors can't cut it. And that means your home stays safe. 24/7 professional monitoring is under $15 a month with no contract. Simply Safe Home Security keeps you safer than the other guys for half the cost. Protect your home with the alarm you can trust. Simply Safe. Go to simplysafedefense.com now for an exclusive 10% offer. That's simplysafedefense.com.
Last year, in the Nevada desert, one family took a stand for freedom. Numanna Food Storage was the first and only company to support the rights of the Bundys. While others stood down, Numanna took donations and provided storable foods to the men at Bunkerville. Founded by patriots who believe in liberty, Numanna Food Storage is GMO-free, great-tasting, and easy to prepare. Food is freedom. Buy Numanna today at PowerPrepper.com. Numanna Food Storage you'll love to eat at PowerPrepper.com.
Who has over 65 seed varieties of 34 different vegetables?
Down to Earth.
Who has over 63,000 seeds packaged to last 50 years?
Down to Earth.
Whose seeds can be frozen to maintain germination?
Down to Earth seeds. No hybrids, no GMOs, just proven old-time seed varieties grown all over the country by our grandparents. Our kids have the best variety and the largest quantities of vegetable seed for the best price. Get your food security now at downtoearthseeds.com or call 870-427-3039.
The Genesis Communications Radio Network proudly presents The Alex Jones Show, because there's a war on for your mind.
Welcome back to The Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, your host on this April 20th, 2015. Joining me later in the show are going to be Leanne McAdoo and Jakari Jackson. We're going to be talking about some of the breaking news that's coming up. Also, we'll be taking your calls later in the broadcast. Before I go back to the news, I want to let you know that we have InfoWars Life Silver Bullet, colloidal silver, 50% off right now at the InfoWarsLife.com store. That's down $14.95 from its usual price of $29.95. Biggest sale we've ever had on colloidal silver. It's preparedness grade of silver. It is concentrated to a powerful 30 parts per million. We've been sold out of this product for months, and we think it'll happen again pretty soon. So right now is the time to stock up for 2015. Again, that's InfoWars Life Silver Bullet, 50% off at InfoWarsLife.com. Now, before I go back to the Trans-Pacific Partnership, I wanted to, it looks like we're losing when you look at this Trans-Pacific Partnership thing. It's very depressing to see how their plan that they've had for decades is coming together, how they have created these blocks that were essentially trading blocks. They sell it to the public as a free trade area. Then they turn it into a sovereignty area, as they're trying to do in the EU. As we saw 10 years ago, the Council on Foreign Relations had its principal recommendation for what should be done about NAFTA was that we should have a border around the entire perimeter that should be policed by Homeland Security and various American police agencies. So they wanted to consolidate this into a kind of sovereignty area. That would explain, wouldn't it, why we have this open border that neither political party will do anything to close. Just as Joe Biggs pointed out last week, we see the drug cartels, possibly terrorist organizations, anything can come through those borders. They're so porous. And I don't want to erect some kind of fence that is so concentrated that it becomes essentially a prison for Americans either. But we need to strike some kind of a happy medium there. But it explains why we're not doing anything. When you look at this Council on Foreign Relations report, 2005, and by the way, one of the 31 members was Ted Cruz's banker wife in that. She was working, I think, at the time for J.P. Morgan. She went on to work for Robert Zoellick, who was chairing that at Goldman Sachs. He chaired that CFR report. But that's what's going on in Europe right now. They're saying that Greece is going to leave. The only way they can keep it together is if they become a United States of Europe. So it looks pretty dire. It looks like we're going in one fell stroke here. We're going to take these trading blocks, and America is, as I said before, the linchpin in this. We are going to be the connecting point between a European trading bloc and a Asian trading bloc. But of course, it ultimately is about sovereignty. And people might start to understand that's what's going on when this is being negotiated in secret by corporate lobbyists who are giving the corporations the same power as government and who are protecting their interests to the extent that they can slam and shut down any laws in any country that go against what they perceive to be their interest. But before I go back to this, I just want to point out this article that came up today on the Drudge Report. The Pew Center that does polls, they say gun rights now for the first time top gun control and major public opinion shift. In other words, we can win this if we get behind this. They say exactly 2 years after Obama's bid for gun control following the Sandy Hook shooting, a new poll has discovered a huge shift in public opinion to backing Second Amendment rights and away from controlling gun ownership. Now, let me tell you, I had only been working at InfoWars a few months when the Sandy Hook shooting started. And it was a full court, all-out press for Alex Jones. I mean, he understood that the Second Amendment and our rights were hanging by a thread. He pulled everything out. He was doing extra broadcasts. He was going for a couple of hours afterwards, talking to people, doing everything he could. That's when he went on with Piers Morgan. It was very effective. We have won that debate. We have changed the understanding of the American people. It's not propaganda. It's simply explaining to them that you can't be safe if you turn over your safety to some people with guns and a uniform. It doesn't work. Look at what happened in Kenya. We've had 2 shootings now in Kenya, one at a mall, another at a university. Hundreds of people have died because the government wasn't there and nobody there had weapons to defend themselves. No matter how long it takes, and of course they took 7 hours in this latest case for the government to get the military out there. But no matter how long they take, there's always a response time, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour before they're going to get there. And you never know exactly what they're going to do anyway when they get there. We've seen this over and over again, shooting the wrong person. You cannot be safe if you turn your safety over to somebody else. It's just like liberty. Liberty is never given, it is always taken. And you are going to have to take responsibility for your safety. And people understand that. For the first time, they understand that. And you look at these charts on this article, you can see a massive reversal. And I really appreciate what Alex Jones did 2 years ago. He nailed it, and he led that charge. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
on the march.